Scorched Bones, a desert Wendigo horror story. Part 1, by CE Stories. They say the desert doesn't forgive, but they don't tell you it can think. They don't tell you it can lie, that it can mimic the things you love, the things you fear, that it can watch and wait. I went into the Sonoran for peace, space, solitude, maybe some leftover magic in the dust. I wasn't hunting ghosts or legends. I just wanted to be alone with my camera and the ruin of things. But I found something else out there. Something old. Something that doesn't need cold to hunt. It started with the heat, the kind that cooks your sweat before it reaches your skin. I'd taken a detour, one of those bone-dry back roads that snake past the border and into nothing. The Jeep didn't like it. 30 miles of sand-blasted hell, and the engine started coughing like it was on its deathbed. My radiator screamed, and my AC gave out. Still, I pushed on. I'd seen a dead mining town marked on an old map, Queta. Spanish for remains or stay behind, depending on how poetic you want to get. But Queta didn't show up on any GPS. I should have turned back. The road narrowed until it disappeared, swallowed by sun-baked earth. That's when the voices started. At first, it was just static. Soft, broken hissing through my old walkie, which I kept around in case of emergency. But then something slipped between the static. A whisper, stretched out like melting plastic. Female. Faint. Help. It's so hot. I'm still here. I thought it was a solar flare messing with frequencies, or maybe a radio tower left over from some smuggler outfit. But it wasn't just once. It repeated. Same voice, same words, the exact same cadence. Help! It's so hot. I'm still here. Like a broken loop. Like it wanted me to hear it. By the time I set up camp near the shell of a crumbled water station, the sun had dipped low, smearing the sky red and purple. The Jeep was dead. No signal. Just the wind wheezing through busted windows and the metal-on-metal whine of a distant windmill. I ate a granola bar and drank half a bottle of water. Didn't feel real. The heat had sunk into my bones. I felt baked, lightheaded. That night, I dreamed of something chewing. Teeth on bone, wet lips smacking, over and over. When I woke up, the tent smelled like burnt pork. There were footprints outside, bare, long, wrong. The toes curled downward, and the heel dragged like whoever, or whatever, made them didn't quite know how to walk. Then I found the coyote, or what was left of it. Its body was slumped against a rock 15 feet from my camp, open, split from sternum to groin like someone had tried to climb inside it. Ribs bent outward, charred, skin blackened and shredded like it had been peeled, and the eyes gone, hollow, with 2 thin lines of blood dragging down its face, like it had wept before it died. I should have left, should have started walking until my feet broke open, but the voice came again, louder. Help me. I'm so hungry. It wasn't static anymore. It was inside the tent. I tore the flap open and nothing was there, but the air was thick, greasy, like something had been breathing in it. Watching. I felt its weight, even if I couldn't see it. That's when I realized I wasn't alone. Off in the dunes, something moved, just at the edge of the flashlight's reach. Thin, crawling. Its limbs were too long. Its spine jutted up like a row of broken knives under flesh. I could hear its bones grinding as it moved. Click, click, click. It stopped, slowly raised its head, and I swear to God, it was wearing a face. A human face. Pale, dry, cracked, like it had been stretched and dried in the sun. It opened its mouth, too wide, unhinged, and what came out was my voice. Hey, are you okay? Hey, are you okay?" It mocked me, over and over, like it had memorized the words and didn't understand what they meant. I backed into the Jeep, slammed the door, locked it, sat there shaking while the thing circled the vehicle. I couldn't see it anymore, but I heard the scraping of nails. I heard it dragging itself around me, slow and patient. And then, silence, until I heard it again, inside the Jeep. Not moving, not touching, just breathing. Slow, wet, loud enough to rattle the rearview mirror. I turned around. Nothing. No one. Just the smell. That same burned meat scent, mixed with dust and rot and something ancient. Like something that had died 100 years ago and decided to keep dying just to see what it could become. The sun came up eventually, but it didn't save me. Because the desert doesn't need night to kill you. That was just the first night, and I haven't slept since. Scorched Bones, a desert Wendigo horror story. Part 2, by C.E. Stories. I walked. That's all I could do after the second night. No gas, no signal, just heat waves and dust, and a thing out there that wore faces and learned voices. The water ran out fast. My throat felt like I'd been gargling glass. Every step left my calves cramping, skin peeling, lips cracking wide enough to bleed. I walked past animal skeletons, bleached, hollowed out, gnawed by something that didn't leave teeth marks, just scrapes. Dragged open things. I passed what looked like a human pelvis, half buried in the sand, snapped in half. I didn't dig. The whispering didn't stop, even in daylight. It followed me, over my shoulder, beneath my feet, above me in the wind. "Aaron, Aaron, come back. I found water. Come back. You forgot me." It was my ex-wife's voice, then my mother's, then my own. I started laughing, the kind of laughter that sounds too close to crying. My tongue split at the edges. I kept walking, following nothing, hallucinating puddles and shade that vanished when I got close. The sky wasn't blue anymore. It pulsed with heat and hate, and something else. Something watching. Around dusk, I found a shack, half a roof, 3 walls, an old military cot covered in buzzard shit and a shredded tarp, and a man. Or what used to be one. He was curled in the corner like a discarded toy, bones twisted, mouth frozen in a scream. Flies had claimed what was left of his eyes. I didn't check for ID, just backed away, gagging from the stench. That's when I saw the message he'd carved into the floor with his own fingernails. "Don't listen to it. It's not her." There was a hole beside him, dug shallow, like he'd tried to bury something small. My hands moved on their own, clawing through the dirt. I found a baby doll. Number not a doll. A skull. Child-sized, teeth marks along the forehead. Deep. Wide. Like whatever did it didn't chew for hunger, but pleasure. I stumbled outside and collapsed. The stars came out, but they didn't look right. They danced. Moved. I saw a constellation that looked like an open mouth. Then came the humming. Low at first, like a song under the earth. And then I heard it. The scream. Not a woman. Not an animal. It was layered. Like someone stitched 6 voices together and yanked them through a dying throat. Then it stood over me. I don't know how it moved without sound, but it was there, taller than the shack. Bones like rebar under mummified skin. It had no lips, just a gaping grin of black teeth, twitching like centipedes. Its eyes were red pinpricks, but wet. Alive. and it smelled like boiling blood and scorched hair and grief. It crouched down and spoke. "You don't need your skin anymore, Aaron. Let me wear it." I think I passed out. Or maybe I died. I don't know. But I woke up in a ditch sometime after dawn, soaked in blood. My own. Maybe. My shirt was shredded, my legs burned. A huge claw mark split across my chest, shallow but wide, like it wanted me to remember it. I crawled. I don't know how long. Long enough for my tongue to turn black. Long enough to hallucinate an oasis that screamed when I touched it. I think I chewed on a cactus. I think I bit into a rock, thinking it was fruit. And then, I saw the highway. Real pavement. Real cars. I dragged myself across the dirt like a lizard with snapped legs. The last thing I remember is a pickup truck skidding to a stop. A woman jumping out, her screaming, "Oh my God, what happened to you?" I blacked out. They say I was dehydrated, delirious, borderline septic. They found me 40 miles from the nearest trail. No one ever found the Jeep or Queda. No wreckage, no shack, no bones, just me. And now I hear it in the walls, in the vents, every night after sunset. The voice. Sometimes it's my mom. Sometimes it's my own. I'm so hungry, Aaron. I'm still here. Let me wear you. And I think the thing didn't follow me out of the desert. I think it put me on and walked out itself. Because I don't feel like me anymore. Not all the time. Sometimes. I wake up standing in the backyard, naked, bleeding, humming a tune I've never heard. Sometimes I open my mouth and someone else's voice comes out. And I'm so hungry. End.
The Wendigo Trail. Recovered footage log. Narrated by Officer Alan Smoke. Rocky Boy Reservation Police, Montana.
My name is Alan Smoke. I serve as a tribal law enforcement officer for the Rocky Boy Reservation in Montana. Over the years, I've seen my share of strange things out in the hills. Disappearances, mutilated livestock, missing hikers, screams that don't echo like they should. You learn to live with it. You learn to not ask too many questions. But 2 weeks ago, something crossed my desk that I haven't been able to let go of. A plain manila envelope was left outside the front doors of our station. No return address, no fingerprints, just the words, "Do not look," scrawled across the front in thick, angry black marker. Inside was a cracked SD card and nothing else. I should have turned it over to evidence. I should have followed protocol. But I didn't. I watched the footage, and now I can't sleep. The video begins with 4 kids, probably in their 20s, loud, cocky, the kind of amateur ghost hunters you see online, chasing views with cheap gear and fake reactions. Their channel was called Uncharted Fear. The leader introduced himself as Tommy. His girlfriend Ren ran the cameras. Mateo handled the drones. The last one, Chris, was the joker, the guy who always had something stupid to say when things got tense. Their goal was to hike into restricted land in the Bear Paw Mountains. Sacred land. Land we've kept closed off for good reason. They were chasing some Reddit post, claiming a Wendigo was caught on drone footage. I don't know if they believed it, or just wanted to ride the trend. Either way, they went in without permission, without a guide, and without understanding what they were walking into. They hit the tree line on a cold November morning. There's a shaky selfie video of them making jokes under a rusted sign nailed to a post. No trespassing. Tribal land, no cameras, no entry. This means you. They laughed and kept walking. That was day 1. They set up camp near a dry ravine lined with skeletal pine trees. Drone footage showed an endless canopy of black timber stretching for miles. Chris made jokes about Wendigos being vegan now. The mood was light. Wren's camera caught Tommy holding her hand by the fire, whispering, "Let's find a monster." Around 2 a.m., everything changed. Wren was recording with the night vision lens. Everyone else was asleep. She heard something outside, slow, crunching footsteps, then breathing, close, wet, ragged. The tent wall pushed inward, like something enormous was pressing its face against the nylon. They froze. Then, whatever it was, let out a groan. A long, dry, rattling sound like lungs full of ash. It moved on. The next morning, they found claw marks in the trees. Deep. Parallel. Too high up for a cougar. Too wide for a bear. Tommy tried to explain it away. Maybe moose antlers scraping bark. But Wren wasn't buying it. She zoomed in on the claw marks with her camera. 6 slashes. No hesitation. They pressed forward anyway. Around midday, they found bones. A pile of rib cages. Not animal. Not all of them. Some still had flesh. Pink. Raw. One had a shoe nearby. A hiking boot with dried blood inside. Scattered among the bones were dozens of deer hooves. Just the hooves, arranged in a near-perfect circle. Then came the worst part. The bones were cracked down the middle. Hollowed, the marrow sucked out. That's not a bear. That's not a wolf. That's human hunger. Tommy turned pale. Mateo vomited. Chris went silent for the first time. They argued about turning back, but Tommy insisted it was a hunting dump site, that someone was playing a sick joke. They stayed one more night. That was a mistake. The footage at 3:47 a.m. shows Chris pacing the edge of the camp. He swears he heard someone out in the trees whispering his name. When they play it back, Wren isolates the audio. It's his voice whispering, "Let me in." But Chris was still inside the tent. Later that morning, Chris goes missing. He says he's checking a trail cam and heads off alone. 30 minutes pass. Then an hour. Then they find the blood. A dark trail winding through the underbrush, broken twigs and drag marks. They follow it in silence. The next clip is from a mounted tree cam. It shows what they found. Chris. Not dead. Not yet. Pinned to a tree, arms spread like a grotesque crucifixion. A sharpened branch rammed through his lower abdomen, impaling him to the trunk. His stomach is split open, guts hanging like vines, blood dripping in long, slow beads. His face twitches. He's still alive. Wren screams. Mateo falls to his knees. Tommy pulls them back, shaking, shouting. It's not him. That's not Chris anymore. They run. They leave him. But the tree cam keeps rolling. Minutes later, something steps into frame. Tall, slender. Bones stretching through mottled gray skin. It lowers its head to Chris's body. You hear chewing, slurping. Then it tears something free, his thigh muscle, and walks back into the woods, chewing like jerky. That was the Wendigo. That night, there's no fire, just whispering in the trees. Wren records a goodbye message to her sister. Tommy's praying under his breath. Mateo stares into the dark. Then Chris returns. But he's not Chris anymore. He's crawling. Bent. Wrong. His arms too long, his jaw hanging slack, eyes white and bleeding from the corners. His skin is ash gray, stretched thin. You can hear bones snapping as he pulls himself forward, making that wet, rattling laugh they heard the night before. Behind him, in the trees, the Wendigo follows. Wren drops the camera and runs. It tumbles. We see flashes. The forest floor, the fire pit, Tommy's boots. Screams. Then silence. The last footage is distant, shaky. Wren is running toward the car. The flashlight's beam bounces. She stops to look behind her, and that's when you see it. 2 glowing eyes, reflecting light like a predator. Then a second pair, then a third. The Wendigo. And Chris crawling after her, ribs scraping the rocks, mouth distended into an impossible grin. The camera cuts out as something lunges. That's where the tape ends. They never came back. No bodies were found. Only a broken camera, a torn backpack, and a line of claw marks stretching across a tree trunk that hadn't been there before. We never released the footage. The family was told it was a case of exposure, hypothermia. Classic. But I know better. And now, so do you. There's something in those mountains. Something old. Something hungry. And if you hear it whisper your name, don't answer. Containment Protocol Omega. I wasn't the kind of man who believed in monsters. Not back then. Not when I was working 3rd shift as a corrections officer down in Jackson, Georgia. Not when I spent 10 years locking up rapists, murderers, and the worst of what our species had to offer. I used to think monsters were just metaphors, something a preacher might say from a pulpit, or a tired phrase used in headlines to sell papers. But real monsters? Nah. Until I got offered a job at a place called SCIC, Subterranean Containment and Intelligence Command. No website, no government listing. Just a business card slipped under my door with a phone number and the words, "We know what you saw. Let's talk." See, after that riot in 2021, I left the force. Couldn't sleep right. Couldn't drink enough to forget. Young kid named Avery, first month on the job, took a shank to the neck during the blackout. I froze, didn't even pull my weapon, just watched him bleed. I guess SSCIC likes men with ghosts in their closets. The interview wasn't an interview, it was a contract. Thick, bleeding red stamp on the front. Top secret, clearance black. They offered 6 figures, hazard pay, and full medical. All I had to do was agree to never speak about what I was going to see. Ever. I signed, because part of me didn't care anymore. The other part just needed the money. They brought me in blindfolded, drove for hours. The air changed somewhere between Idaho and Montana. Got colder. Still. The facility looked like a bunker married a slaughterhouse. All metal corridors and biometric locks. Cameras everywhere, but no windows. I met my shift partner, Luis, who grinned like he'd already lost his mind. Tech guy, loved bad jokes, and had 3 kids he never shut up about. Mick was our lead. Ex-Delta, skin like leather, and a permanent chew bulge in his cheek. Carried a sawed-off shotgun and a cyanide pill in a glass tube around his neck. Just in case, he'd say. My job? Monitor and guard the units. Not prisoners. Not inmates. Cryptids. That's what they called them. Things that shouldn't exist. Things no one ever talks about in the open. But SCIC doesn't just talk about them. They trap them, study them. Keep them in the dark like old secrets. Unit 03, the Wendigo. Looked like a corpse that starved to death and kept on starving. Antlers like branches dipped in blood. Didn't breathe. Didn't blink. It whispered sometimes, in my mother's voice. Unit 07, the Dog Man. 8-foot bipedal nightmare. Canine muzzle. Humanoid body covered in thick black fur. Red eyes that glowed in the dark. It paced. Constantly. Even when sedated, it growled. Like it knew it was only a matter of time. Unit 11. Goatman. Walked like a man. Laughed like a demon. Twisted horns. Human hands. Loved to whisper secrets. Things you didn't know anyone else could know. Remember when you wished your brother was dead, it said once. I nearly shot the damn containment glass. Unit 15. The werebear. Massive. 9 feet. Easily half a ton of muscle and bone. Oddly calm. It liked Bach. Mick used to play him cello music. Swore it helped. Most shifts were dull. Monitors, patrols, and pretending the air didn't smell like rust and ammonia. But that Tuesday night, everything changed. Power went out at 2:03 a.m. First, it was just the lights. Then the hum of the generators cut. Then the silence. Red emergency lights blinked on. Luis muttered, "No, no, no, no," and slammed keys on his console. Systems were dead. Doors started unlocking on their own. I could hear the locks disengaging. Click, click, click. Then the alarm. Not the usual one. Deep, guttural tone that vibrated through your bones. Omega breach detected. Containment compromised. The monitors flickered. One showed the Wendigo standing in the center of its cell, staring straight into the camera. It smiled. Another showed Dogman already out, slumped guard beneath it torn in half. Luis dry heaved. I grabbed my sidearm and yelled for him to follow. We didn't make it to the armory. Found Harris instead. Or at least his top half. His lower half was down the hall, twitching. Luis bolted for the control room. I headed toward the containment wing. I shouldn't have. Dogman versus Goatman. I saw the Dogman first. Towering. Eyes glowing. Sniffing. Then the Goatman's laughter echoed down the hall in my voice. Dogman lunged. The Goatman shrieked something guttural, slashing with clawed fingers. Blood sprayed the walls. Dogman slammed it into the wall hard enough to leave a dent. Bit into its neck. Ripped. The Goatman died, gargling a laugh. Wendigo versus werebear. Mick was alive. Barely. We limped toward Unit 15, heard the roars before we saw it. The werebear was locked in combat with the Wendigo. Claw versus bone. Flesh versus death. Wendigo was faster. Slashed the werebear's stomach open. Guts spilled. It didn't stop fighting. Then the Wendigo whispered something, and the werebear froze. Just for a second. It was enough. Wendigo gutted it from chest to groin. The roar stopped. Mick tried to shoot. Wendigo turned and hurled something. It was Luis's face. Mick screamed. Didn't stop. I dragged Mick toward the atrium. He was bleeding from his stomach, crying about his daughter. Everything was red. Lights. Blood. My vision. Radio said nothing. Just static. Maybe I was the last. Then the Wendigo's voice came over the intercom. You let him die. You wanted to. Avery. I dropped to my knees. For a moment I thought about using Mick's pill. Then the howling started again. Dogman. Close. But the Wendigo's voice kept whispering. They're waiting for you in hell. I got up. Atrium was torn to hell. Water from burst pipes flooded the floor. Sparks rained from the ceiling. I climbed into the busted observation booth. Locked the door. Pressed record on the log recorder. Dogman arrived first. Limbs shaking. One eye missing. Fur soaked in blood. Wendigo dropped from the rafters like a shadow torn from God. They clashed. Teeth, claws, antlers, roars that split concrete. Dogman gouged Wendigo's side. Wendigo impaled Dogman through the chest with broken metal. Blood. So much blood. Dogman tackled it into a wall, ripping at ribs. Wendigo bent its neck like an owl and bit Dogman's throat out. Both fell. Still. Then Wendigo twitched. Crawled. Half a skull left. One arm, still moving. It vanished into the maintenance tunnel. Gone. I don't know how long I've been sitting here. I think they're all dead. The Wendigo is out. Maybe the Dogman, too. I'm leaving this log for whoever finds it, if anyone does. Burn this place, salt the ground, and pray they don't come back. Because monsters are real, and we were dumb enough to try and keep them.